All right, here we are live again. Reveal number 625. It's a 1961D original California Bank head office, Los Angeles, California roll. California Bank. It's got a little bit of tape on it. Get this tape off of it. And I'm going to have to peel back here to get the seam exposed so I can open this. In fact, I'm going to cut it. Scalpel. Cut that seam right there so the paper will unfold properly. There we go. Now surgically open the paper. Pretty obvious this one hasn't been played with, so we've got every chance of finding goodies in here. Over 100 different RPMs known for 1961D, so we've got ourselves quite a chore here if we start finding stuff and identifying that stuff which we find. See what I did there? Toss a little English lesson in there. Hope everybody's doing well. Don't have very many people watching yet, but we will eventually, I'm sure. Let's get the coins up under the paper there. Let the paper unroll itself to reveal a nice little roll of Lincoln cents. Got everything here trying to work against us. All right, here we go. Coin number 1. It's going to go to Dave Coleman. Dave, here is your coin, and the first one of this roll happens to be, yeah, it looks like it could possibly have something going on with the bottom half of the mint mark, but man, that's too close. Too close to call, so we're going to go ahead and move on with other parts of this coin to see if there's anything here for us to call a shot on. Nothing on that side. Let's check the reverse. Let me back out just a little bit more. There we go. Get a slightly more general view. Give us a better idea of what we've got area-wide rather than trying to look at the details on each individual letter. For a double die, that is kind of paramount. It's kind of important that you look at the area and not just one letter at a time. Makes things a little easier to deal with. Okay, move my keyboard out of the way here. Going to coin number 2, Paul. Mr. Hampton. We got these shows started early enough that we're probably going to be finished by the start time of the third show. That's kind of usual. Not really expecting to find anything on the reverse of 1961D. Not much of anything known for the reverse side of 1961D. Just kind of looking all over, getting used to the 61D design again. I have to do that, as would you, every single time you start looking through a different roll. You have to spend the first few coins getting yourself acclimated to the design itself to remember, oh yeah, that little bit of machine doubling is, or that little bit of master die doubling is supposed to be there. Like this little doubling on the top of the O in God is on just about every 1961 Lincoln cent. In some it's more visible than others. Just depends on the age of the hub at the time it created the die, and then the age of the die at the time it created the coin. Now age, we're not talking about age in time, we're talking about age as in wear. How much wear did that die receive prior to minting this coin? This particular coin is a late mid die state to a late die state. You could tell that by the feathering. It's at the edge of the letters toward the rim, especially the letters in Agave Trust, which are close to the rim and the last digit of the date. Later die state coins are often a little more difficult to pick out for die varieties. So this one's also mid to late die state. In the study of die state in 1989 by Delmer Romines, he was able to assign 7 different die states, die ages, to the wear of a die. You have very early die state, which accounts for less than 1% of all the coins made by that die. Very early die state, you'll see no die wear at all. So your coin's design will be totally crisp. See none of those little lines that form in the fields. Those are called flow lines. They form in the fields, and they also form at the outer edges of lettering, near the rim especially. You notice that the Y doesn't have it nearly as much as the LI does, and that's because the LI is closer to the rim. Early die state, you start to see a very little hint that there could be some age going on, but it's nothing pressing, nothing very noticeable. Everything's still very sharp. Then you got mid die state. Mid die state is sectioned into 3 different die states. You've got early mid die state, you got mid die state, and late mid die state. And those are all going to be coins showing some die wear, however not necessarily a lot of die wear. You can get into a lot of die wear when you start getting into the later die states. This one is a mid die state coin here. You've got small amounts of feathering, but you still got sharp edges. You see your LI is relatively sharp there, but your Y is completely sharp still. I was reading Ant's Fine. Very nice. Very nice fine. Very nice. Type C. That's the 65 plus design, I believe. 64 is supposed to be type B. And type A, type B, type C all have to do with the exact design used. Some of them were supposed to be a proof-only design, I think. But then after mid die states, the 3 mid die states, you have late die state, which is most of what we're looking at here and is quite common. Early die state, as I said again, very early die state is less than 1% of the coins made by a given die. Early die state comprises roughly about 5%. Mid die state's another 10 to 15%. Late die state is close to 30%. And then very late die state is the remainder. It is the largest group of coins we have, are very late die state. Very late die state, often you have a lot of feathering, in fact loss of design toward the outside edge of the coin. There's another late die state. It can be difficult to discern the die states because a lot of times it's a matter of judgment. It's more a subjective thing than an objective thing, even though there are objective goals to determining which die state you have. Those objective goals aren't necessarily quantified, measured specifically in distances or anything to that effect. So what one person sees as a mid die state could be the next person's late die state. But it all pretty much has to do with the amount of die flow you see on the surface of a coin. A lot of people like to mention something called die stage, or die stage, or the stage of a coin. Is very different from die state. Stage is a matter of having lasting markers, or the wear down of such markers, on a given die while it's minting coins that can be followed in progression from one to the next to the next to the next. And it will help you gain knowledge of what happened to that die throughout its life. A stage, for instance, could be a clash or a die crack. That little die crack right there going along the outer edge of this column is a stage marker. When that die crack formed, the stage of the reverse changed. Doesn't matter what die state it was in at that time. The die state is secondary to the description of a die stage. So this stage could say curved die crack running along the outer edge of column 12, reverse is late die state. And that would be a stage marker for that particular die. So die state is the age at which the die struck your coin, and die stage is an explanation of particular markers that have changed throughout the life of that die. I'm seeing what looks like a doubled eyelid, but it's not at the right angle. It goes straight out from the face rather than the angle up that you would expect an eyelid to go in. So that is likely a die gouge or a hit on the die, which we tend to call a die dot. A lot of different little terms we use. Sometimes those terms are very significant because they are ones that have been established by the numismatic community as being the specific terms that should be used for specific things, so that we can all be on the same page when we're describing what we have. So if we say soft strike, we're talking about this. We're talking about where not all of the design features show up on a strike because the strike was softer than a full strike. A full strike, those little design things for the cornice would have gone all the way across. There should be one right here that you can barely see, and this one is almost obliterated as well, and that's because the coin was not struck heavily enough to bring up the design in this area. That's a soft strike. And as you get into your hobby of looking at coins and listening to people talk about coins, you will become more accustomed to these definitions, to these terms. Start learning more about what those terms mean. Hey, Patrice. Are we talking about the soft strike like this? No, soft strike and grease are two completely different things. If I find some grease, I'll show it to you. But a soft strike is a very soft blend from a fully struck piece to lesser, and gone. And so you can see how the softness had a very large role in why this area of the design is basically gone. And with a grease-filled die, you're going to see a rather hard outlined area where the design is basically gone, simply because there was something on the die when it struck the coin, something viscous. Struck through grease is not very common on 1961D. What's much more common are lamination peels, soft strikes, a lot of gritty stuff like this right here, all this grit right here. This grit comes from when the coin was a mere planchet, an unstruck planchet. They were shifted a lot of times back and forth from bags to bags and everything else, and they went through hoppers and spilled out and all this kind of stuff. Well, and these are all hits and dents and dings and stuff that the dirt and grime in the area made on the planchet prior to the strike. And this is the highest area of the design, so that when it was struck, it didn't get completely obliterated by the strike of the design, whereas this did, because this was a much lower feature on the coin. And so your high areas, like right above the ear, the earlobe, the jawline, the cheek, the back of the shoulder going all the way down, or the back of the coat going all the way down to the shoulder, are going to have some little peck marks in them that look like the coin has been hit a whole bunch of little tiny times. They're going to be little tiny indentations. Those are often there before the coin was even struck, when the coin was a mere little planchet. This is hard, having to go through a 1961 D roll that doesn't show us anything at all. It is almost unusual. But you could see it was an original roll when we got into it. Here's coin number 13, Mickey. Let's see what we can find here. These are the little things that I try to get into teaching as I'm going through rolls, because, well, I know the people who've been around for a long time would already know this, so that the public could tune in and at any point in the future. This is a crack that will eventually be a die break. So this little area right here is going to completely split out of the die, and it's going to be a big clump of metal there. But this is an early progression of that. So this is a recessed area, or an indentation in the die prior to a die break. Then when this breaks out, you change stage, because that broke out, and now you can see a hump of metal. Anyhow, the initial intention of doing these shows was so I could get it recorded so nobody could say I was cheating them. And eventually what it became was a show everybody wanted to tune in and watch while it was live. So what happened was everybody started attending the shows live and wanted to know what time I was doing it, and what time was I doing this, and what time was this roll going to be on, and which day are you going to do this roll. And I thought, wow, these people really want to watch me go through a roll of 50 coins. And initially it was just a matter of being able to get the proof out there that it was done. It was done very transparently, so that you could see everything that happened. And it became an educational show on how to search rolls of coins. So I'm happy enough with what it became. I didn't ask for it to be this way, but it turned out to be this way, and I'm happy for it. Now Eric has taken on doing some of his rolls so that we can keep the airwaves filled with roll reveals through the week. And I've had a lot of personal issues going on so far this year. I'm hoping that most of my personal issues are resolved now, and we're going to get back to what I would consider normal, and that I can get back to my shows on a regular basis, and then start making some educational videos that are not just reveal videos, but also actually videos where I show you examples of what I'm talking about and give you a little bit of education in the coin. In the coin, what would I call it? The hobby, the industry. What we do, how we do it, what it looks like, that sort of thing. It gets a little worrisome at times when I'm doing these shows, when everybody's really, really quiet. They don't say anything. I realized somebody was talking to me about it, and they said, no, just keep talking. Just keep for it. We're here. I said, okay. Well, I don't mind if you guys mumble. I don't mind if you guys ask questions. Ask me questions. Of course, I would prefer questions that are pertinent to the role we're working on at the time. Not, questions as to How do you tell a bluebird apart from an indigo bunting? I don't know. Look at a book. Look at a book. That one's got a spot on it. It's got an icky spot. But my rule sort of is, if it came out of an original roll, it's going to be what it is. There's not really a whole lot I can do about them. Sell the coins sight unseen. They're purchased sight unseen. And you kind of get what you get. If they come out of a tube, I'll replace them, or I'll give you credit for them. Come out of an original roll, a little bit different. I cannot account for the condition of coins inside of an original roll. Now, I do my best to pick out rolls that look nice from the outside and hope everything is nice on the inside, but I can never tell you for sure that's going to be the case. I also can't tell you that we're necessarily going to run into any die varieties or anything. That's actually what we're looking for, but it's more of a hope than a promise. I certainly hope that we find good stuff in every single roll. That's kind of my target, my assumed goal, without being able to glue myself down to any particular promise. The only thing I can promise is that everyone gets a coin. If you don't get a coin, you get a credit. And that has happened where I've had 49, 48 coins in a roll. I've had 51 in rolls before, but mostly it's on the downside rather than the upside. And usually it's in tubed rolls, not in original rolls like this. Original rolls, machine-counted rolls, machines usually do a pretty good job of getting 50 coins in every roll. Man, I tell you, we're on a dry spell right here. We need to get something to wake the action up here. Perhaps this next roll, 1959D, that we dig into is going to be the answer to our query for the morning. Where are we? Where am I? There we are. I sometimes lose track of my own hand. This is that one time where I ignore all phone calls, all messages, all texts, and I pay attention strictly to what you guys are doing, what you guys are asking, and what we are looking at. It's kind of my cathartic break from reality. Get a few minutes to look through coins and do nothing else. The capital of Assyria, Damascus. There's one thing by choosing to be a broadcaster. I don't get much time to watch other people's shows. I'm always trying to get ready for my next one. Or I'm mowing the yard or dealing with personal issues or trying to spend some time with my wife to show her I actually do care. You know, that sort of thing. Number 27 now, going to Paul Hampton. It looks like we're running into a pretty dry roll here. Not seeing anything. And these little guys. There's one for Sureg. This one's got a lot of little stripes on it. It is one that I would call a woody, but it's a dirty woody. These are not fingerprints. These are part of how the coin was minted. Every one of those little brown flakes is a potential lamination peel. They're too small to really make much of anything out of them. But that's basically what that is. It's a laminated surface. Reverse has it too. Dirty wood. There you go. You got Hollywood. You got dirty wood. You got yellow wood. Here, this one's for Eric. Can Eric change our luck? Nope. Not this time. Deadwood, that's right. I didn't check to see how many cities and towns in the United States use the word wood in them. There has to be a regular expression match that I can use to sort by anything that has the word wood in it and just do a line count. Should be pretty simple. Yeah, the thing about it is I don't think Fred Weinberg would have anything to do with live broadcast shows. Just don't think he's into that sort of thing. As is the case with many of our elders, previous generation people in the coin hobby. Most of them don't want to be caught up in live broadcasting, partly because there's so many cynical worms, little trolls that get into these and do nothing but try to disrupt everything. And, well, they don't understand why anybody would come into a show just to try to disrupt it, but it's because they're immature and just want some attention. Bad attention is still attention. And 25, 30, 40 years ago, people didn't do that sort of thing. It seems to be kind of a new birth type thing with the I'm guessing it's the generation after the X generation, after our Generation X people. The ones who are presently 20 to 40 years old. They have an issue with, well, I'm not saying all of them, I'm just saying the trolls of that generation have an issue with being decent toward people. One for Dan here. As I sometimes do in the mornings, I have little blood sugar crashes. I'm having one of them right now, kind of a cold sweat, nauseating type thing. So I'll press through this and I'll take a break before my next roll. Resolve the issue and come back strong, ready to go. Yeah, 40, 50 years ago, they would have got clocked upside the head. Because we didn't have the ability to hide behind keyboards in our own cushy little room and just cause problems for other people, which is a very possible thing these days. Good thing that we've got timeouts and we've got kickouts and hammers and stuff like that, and we can push them out quickly. So, their whole... Here's Taco John. Yeah, their whole little bit with trying to upset and throw sand in the wound, they're just causing us to have to go through more security measures and more stupid stuff to make sure that people like that don't have any power. Yeah, write a letter to the editor. Correct. Yes. Write a letter to the editor, and the editor can choose to publish your letter or choose not to. There's one for Mr. Roger Borland. I think we're going to run into a total dry roll here. Unfortunately. I hate it when this happens, especially with these dates. But it does. Well, one of the things that the educators, such as myself, like to have are serious people who want to come in and learn something, who don't want to try to prove how much smarter they can be than the host of the show, and don't want to be told to sit down and shut up, because that's offensive. That's rude. Don't tell me to sit down and shut up. I'll say whatever I want. Right. No, say whatever you want out of my broadcast. Click. And that's kind of the way I look at this. I mean, really, what it boils down to is this is my show. This is my chat. My rules. And my rules can change by the second. If I don't like what you say, I can kick you out. And I have a whole army of people watching who got blue names. And they're real quick to use that banhammer. Oh, look at that. Dan comes up and says banhammer just as I said it. GMTA. Great minds think alike. I really enjoy doing this, but I don't enjoy the experience like in the Facebook groups and stuff, because the Facebook groups are less controllable, especially if you're not an admin of said group, and especially if the admins of said group are the people who cause the most problems. And we have those. There's plenty of groups out there where somebody got pushed out of a group for being a troll, and so they just read the rules and figure out how to start their own group, and they start their own group. Of course, they give it a cushy title and everything, so people who don't know them will say, oh cool, a new coin group, and they'll join up, and then you'll end up with 1,000 members in this coin group that has a total troll running the group. I know of a few groups like that, quite a few actually, and enough so that I kind of escaped the whole Facebook groups thing. I don't participate in the groups very much anymore because of that. Yeah, I mean, I used to antagonize trolls. I used to like to play little games with them like a cat plays with a mouse before he kills it. But I'm too busy for that. I'm too busy to play stupid kid games. Morning, Donald. I just prefer to have decent people doing decent things who have legitimate questions and legitimately enjoy what we do, where we can all share a common like with each other. And with the groups that I used to run, you get one chance. If I see you as a troll, you're out. There are no takebacks. In fact, I left a group one time because one of the trolls that I banned from my group became an admin of that group, and one of their rules was that you can't block admins. Well, I had this guy blocked long before he was ever an admin to anything. So then I had the admins after me telling me I needed to unblock this admin because I was breaking the rules. So what'd I do? I left the group. I'm not unblocking people that I've already blocked. World Numismatic News feature on the 25S RPM. I don't know what that is. One for Dave here. What I can tell you with regard to YouTube is that probably 2/3 of what you see on YouTube is clickbait. Only about 1/3 of what you see on YouTube are decent people who know what they're doing and are actually educating versus simply trying to sell what they have as something scarce, so they blow it up and make it seem like it's a lot more than it actually is, so you'll buy it. Or people who are just trying to get watchers so they can make money. That's 9 times out of 10, that's what it is. I've seen videos that were totally wrong, had very little actual numismatic fact in them, yet they lasted 10 minutes. And it was just so that they would have a place to insert commercials so that they could make money. And some of them are all AI, and some of them are not all AI. They had to have some form of interjection by a real person to have the content that they do have, even though that content is still incorrect or faulty or otherwise not worth having online. All right. Well, that's it for this roll. Unfortunately, turned up to have another dry roll. Keep watching. It is 11:15 right now. The next show is scheduled for 12 o'clock. I think I'm going to go take a break, get some lunch in me, and then I'll be back. I'm figuring probably by 11:45 because I need to get myself together for the auction this evening, which will be a nice big auction. 7 p.m. Eastern time. I hope to see you there. That's what I've got for now. I'll be back soon enough. I appreciate you guys dropping by.